And I'm grateful to my honourable friend from Bath, her and I share many opinions on body image, algorithms, social media, steroid use and eating disorders. And it's today I respond as His Majesty's opposition in that role. But I'm pleased to be able to have the chance and build on the work that I've enjoyed with her bringing this forward. She's right to point out that 1 in 50 people will suffer with an eating disorder or disordered eating. That means we likely all know someone who suffers. I too have had people close to me and have seen what can happen, both personally and professionally. It's timely, therefore, that the theme of the Eating Disorder Awareness Week 2025 was that of eating disorders can affect anyone. And that's an important fact to recognise. Why? Because we know eating disorders have some of the worst outcomes of any mental health diagnosis. Early intervention is key to break that cycle. Without doing so is not only devastating for the patient, but for the families and friends, the health service, and ultimately society. Now, disordered eating can take a variety of forms, from limiting the amount of food eaten, eating very large quantities of food at once, getting rid of that food through unhealthy means, through purging, laxative misuse, fasting, or excessive exercise, or a combination of all of these, which can be one of the reasons it's so damaging. You see, in other medical issues like alcohol, drugs, or gambling, the aim is abstinence. Yet, of course, this isn't simply the case here. We all need to eat. But it isn't just the compulsive element of disordered eating. It's far more complex than that. Drivers of control and shame are so powerful. A sufferer told me, eating disorders are not about food. At least they didn't start that way. We, the eating disordered, started by using dysfunctional eating habits and starvation to control our feelings and gain a sense of control of the world around us. This soon spiraled into a dangerous daily obsession of reaching our ultimate unattainable goal, being thin enough. For us, to be thin enough is finally to be good enough. Every room entered, every street walked involved detailed analysis of the physiques of others, feeling pride and superiority if I was the thinnest, and earth-shattering shame, disgust if I was not. Both galvanised my resolve. And worse still, many people who suffer with eating disorders simply don't want to get better. The disease doesn't want to let them get better. The quote goes on, "My eating disorder gradually robbed me of my happiness, my relationships, my health, and my sanity. The insanity is that despite all this, I could not stop. I did not want to stop. I was petrified of change. Thinness had become my identity, and starved attachment was my way to cope with the feelings and my life." So my experience is that sufferers with depression and addiction would bite your hand off for a magic bullet. Alas, the same isn't the case for eating disorders, and this is the barbarity of the disease. Yet we know catching it earlier can make all the difference, and hence debates like this can dramatically help to do that. Awareness and prevention. Beat's own survey from December and January gathered findings on lived experience of eating disorders from 1,900 people, which showed 4 in 5 people thought that greater public awareness would make them feel more comfortable to talk about their eating disorder. 2 in 3 would not feel comfortable about talking to their teacher. 2 in 3 would not feel comfortable talking with their line manager. And 2 in 3 would not feel comfortable talking with a colleague. So more needs to be done to make it acceptable. The COVID-19 pandemic, and lockdown specifically, contributed to a surge in demand for children and young people's eating disorders. It's no surprise with the lack of control in a lockdown. In Q1 of 2021-2022, 3,400 people were treated, compared to 1,900 people in Q1 of 2019-2020. Now, we have seen some recent glimmers of hope from the data on waiting times for children and young people in eating disorders services. Recent data showed that between October and December 2024, 350 out of 433, that's 80% of urgent referrals to children's eating disorders, were seen within 1 week. During the same time period, 2,064 out of 2,251, that's 81%, routine referrals were seen within 4 weeks, but more still needs to be done. I believe we're starting to see the fruit of some of the investment from the last government, as investment in children and young services for eating disorders consistently rose each year from 2016, reaching 54 million in 2023-2024. This helped expand the community eating disorders teams across the country. This was in addition to the 79 million that was invested through the COVID-19 Mental Health Recovery Action Plan to expand young people's mental health services, which has enabled 2,000 more children to be able to access eating disorders services. Furthermore, I remember the Westminster Hall debate where the Honourable Member for Bath brought to the House for Eating Disorders Awareness Week last year, and I was pleased to hear the then Conservative Minister, the former member for Pendle, announcing an additional £3 million of funding, meaning that a total of 24 hubs received a share of £8 million in 2024-2025. That's more than double the original target of funding 10 hubs, and organisations across England will all benefit from this. These are, of course, positive steps, but the new government should accelerate this momentum. In October last year, before I was made a Shadow Minister in the Health Department, I called on the Honourable Member for Gorton and Denton to convene an expert roundtable to discuss eating disorders, given the challenges faced by governments in tackling this issue. While the Minister at this time did not commit to it, he stated the following: "When we were in opposition, we gave support to the then government, and I can assure the honourable gentleman that we will do everything we can to support people who have eating disorders and get the right provision and support at the right time for those people who need it." Therefore, I renew this question to the Minister present today. Will he look to convene a cross-party roundtable of experts and campaigners? Will he also commit to a national eating disorder strategy, as requested by the APPG in their report? Now, since taking office, the government has consistently reaffirmed its commitment on children and young people's mental health. However, progress is unclear. There are a couple of key tangible commitments made in the Labour manifesto that I'd like to ask the Minister for an update on. Firstly, Labour promised to recruit 8,500 new mental health staff. Can the Minister tell us how many extra mental health staff have been recruited since the government took office, and how many will be targeted for eating disorders? Labour's manifesto also promised, I quote, "provide access to specialist mental health professionals in every school so every young person has access to address problems before they escalate." This builds on the work by the Conservative government to have mental health support teams in 35% of schools by the end of 2023, which it was achieved, and to be across all schools by 2024. Of course, the election punctuated this. So could the Minister update the House on what progress is being made on this commitment? And what assurances can the Minister provide to eating disorder services, given that spending on mental health is projected to reduce as a proportion of overall spend in 2025-2026, which the government announced last week in its written statement? Finally, I just want to reiterate the question which the Shadow Secretary of State asked the Health Secretary at Oral Questions in February. I quote, "Will he back Beat's call for broader access to intensive community and day treatments for those with eating disorders? There are limited places currently, and set out a timetable in which that will be delivered." Well, I was pleased to hear the Health Secretary recognise the importance of the issue. Some further details from the Minister today would be really helpful. To conclude, Mr Stewart, while there is a long road to go for preventing eating disorders and supporting those who suffer, I live in hope that healing doesn't mean the damage never existed. Simply, it means the damage no longer controls your life.